Hi, this is Elisabeth Hancock, host of the Great Awakening podcast. This week, I'm going to be looking at cloning, and there's a reason for that, which I'll come on to in a minute. And I'm going to end with a meditation that you can do for yourself at home as well. And that's because when I did this meditation, I found it absolutely transformational, and I wanted to share the same with you so you could do it as well. I'll start off by saying that this episode is for very open-minded people who want to heal and are willing to look at alternative methods of healing. If you get triggered by it, then I suspect that you are meant to be triggered by it, because these consciousness expanding moments, whether good or uncomfortable, are healing you as well. Like most people who have discovered that this world is not what we believe it is, you get to a point in your healing journey when your mind is able to look at uncomfortable truths about the world and deal with them. Until then, your mind will either try and keep you away from them, you'll get triggered by them, or you'll simply not believe them. Our belief structures are likely trying to keep many of us safe, but I think they've also been abused and programmed over the decades as well. It was reading Barbara Stone's book, Star Civilization 101, that helped me to discover one of these uncomfortable truths for myself. And this is to do with cloning. Like many, I've read about cloning in many places, and I'm open to the concept of it because it comes up in so many areas of research. In fact, it's first mentioned as far back as the cuneiform tablets, some of which are 5,000 years old, where not only the Anunnaki sky gods appear to have cloned themselves so they could live for thousands of years, but they also apparently cloned Adamu, or Adam, as the Bible says, the first Homo sapien, until they genetically altered him to be able to procreate. In more modern times, cloning is said to have only been around since 1996, when Dolly the sheep was the first cloned animal. And now, cloning is regularly carried out with farm animals, pets, dogs, all the time. Human cloning is said to be illegal, but there are cloning companies around the world who state that they work with celebrities, politicians, and those that have lost a loved one and want to have them genetically cloned. The most interesting story, though, is the account of Dr. Michael Cruvent-Wolf, who states that in the 1970s he worked with the US military on the first human cloning. He even donated his DNA for use. It was called the Sentinel Project, where they named the clone J-type Omega, but he was soon executed because the super soldier refused to kill a dog. They went back to the drawing board and created a new clone that would do exactly it was ordered to do without question. There's even an off-world link here too, because Dr. Wolf reports that the military were working with the Greys on this project, who apparently have a vast amount of experience working with genetics. I find this interesting because of all the DNA gathering that's been going on over the past decade, which of course is why I don't give my DNA to these low-cost DNA testing sites, because we really don't know who they're selling them on to. The DNA testing company 23andMe have already announced in the mainstream media that they've sold their DNA data to Big Pharma. And at the same time, it was also announced in the media that they can now target certain genetics and bloodlines with their viruses, aka bioweapons as well. And of course, as I talked about in previous episodes with Guy Anderson, it looks like cloning was also being carried out after the last great reset of 1776, with the Cabbage Patch Kids and the incubator babies that appeared in the world fairs in every city. Even I find this uncomfortable to think that we might have all been cloned, which is not only why we look so similar, but also why there are so many doppelgangers in the world. The idea is that these clones were used to build the population back up again after each era of destruction. For example, World War II and the baby boom is quite unbelievable when you look at the growth of the population after the war, and old photos show that there were incubator babies then too. But to have risen from 1 billion people in the year 800 to just over 1.5 billion in the year 1900 to more than 8 billion today is so remarkable that I feel it needs to be questioned. The only saving grace here is that I suspect that we don't actually have 8 billion people in the world at all, as the figures in each country don't add up. And there are now independent organizations going around counting because they feel the same as I do. It just doesn't make sense. Then thinking about the war itself, there's also evidence of genetic tinkering going on by the Nazi scientists in the concentration camps with children. Thousands of these Nazi scientists went over to the US after World War II ended, along with 13 large corporations that went on to form Big Pharma. The CIA was apparently formed from this pool of Nazis at the same time too. This means they must have taken their research and findings with them, and obviously carried on doing genetic experimenting, as the accounts of the super soldier Stephen Chua confirm. During his 20 years of service with the Singapore military and a stint at Area 51, he fought with many hybrid reptilian humanoids which they were creating in the many different underground bases back then. And there's also an off-world link here too, because there is increasing evidence through whistleblowers to show that the Nazis were working with 3 regressive ET species who not only gave them mind control technology, but also anti-gravity technology and spacecraft, which they reverse engineered. The Nazis then used these craft during the war and even flew over the US, where thousands of people witnessed it. These accounts have now been suppressed, and it's been taken out of our collective memory through historical accounts being deleted and TV and film filling in the gaps with false information. And although in the 1940s and 50s the US was given the chance to work with benevolent ETs, they refused because it would have meant giving up nuclear power and bombs. This would have enabled free energy, plant enhancement technologies, life extension technology, and holographic healing therapies to enter our world back then. But the parasitic elites blocked all of this as they couldn't make money from it. I think it's fair to say that looking at the craziness of the world around us, it looks like they've been working with these off-world aggressive ETs for decades, because the benevolent ones would never do what we have been doing here. And one such thing is the secret space program. The secret space programs involve cloning people, usually military people, and then using their cloned body for military purposes. In some cases, they even use the consciousness of the person involved. But this is more advanced, which we won't go into today. However, these memories can be accessed through deep hypnosis during regression therapy. And if this is something you feel you want to explore, then I highly recommend doing it. I work with clients helping them to explore missing time and suppressed memories, because this is something that I needed to work on as well. We know that the CIA has been working on mind control technology since the 40s, but what exactly have they been using this mind control technology for? I think if we look around the world at bizarre behavior that keeps happening and doesn't make sense, we can see where they've been using it. For example, the number of shootings in American schools carried out by a student is remarkably high. So maybe this is one area. Our films and media is possibly another area, as the podcasters Bonnie and John Mitchell of Awaken Video discovered when they looked at Barack Obama's new film on Netflix, Leave the World Behind. They noticed it contained 4 audio tracks instead of 1, and they report that one of these audio tracks is in the infrasonic frequency range and inaudible to humans. The frequencies in this range are used in non-lethal weapons to cause disorientation, incapacitation, vomiting, and nausea. These frequencies can also be used to implant negative emotional states such as fear, anxiety, despair, and hopelessness into an audience as well. I suspect that there are many films on Netflix which have the same audio. So if you start to feel depressed after watching Netflix, then keep saying, "I do not consent, I do not consent, I do not consent," and visualize the white healing light of source energy flowing through your body and rinsing all this low vibrational energy off until you feel better. Understanding frequency healing and how it works has really opened up my mind to how it can be abused, because everything in our universe is made up of frequency. All disease can be healed by bombarding the body with high vibrational frequencies. So it makes sense that the opposite can be done as well. When you look at the amount of disease, depression, poverty, wars, famine, and suffering in our world, it does beg the question, have low vibrational frequencies been bombarded into our world using the HARP technology? Theoretically, HARP technology can be used for this. So we only have to ask ourselves the question, are there people corrupt enough in our world who would do this? So it seems that even though these are cloned versions of people, their DNA can somehow still pick up the emotional trauma that's happening in their cloned life, probably via quantum entanglement theory. And the consciousness of the individual can hold these same emotions of anger, pain, suffering, or terror, aka fear. This is because the individual, or at least their DNA, is living in multiple locations, not just one. So if the clone is living in a difficult situation, maybe being experimented on, being held somewhere against their will, or even being used in wars, where they can die multiple times as there are so many clones of them. The individual would still experience this on an emotional level because they're connected. Their DNA is connected, and all memory and information is held in our DNA. The only problem is that this is all on a subconscious level and not on a conscious level. So they aren't aware of what's happening, and they don't understand why they may feel these strong emotions in this way. So ask yourself this: do you have a lot of anger that you cannot explain, even though you've done a lot of healing on yourself? Do you feel constantly trapped or suffocated? Do you feel constantly anxious or scared and don't know why? Of course, there could be more rational explanations for this, but either way, the body needs to let these trapped emotions go. And however you can do that, I think it's worth doing. These trapped emotions could also be from past or parallel lives, as you are multidimensional yourself. And these memories could also be from your ancestors, passed down in your DNA epigenetically until you release them, as the indigenous tribes do with their children when problems start to manifest into their lives. But if you are someone that does a lot of past life regression work, a lot of meditation and journaling, and have been working on yourself for decades but still can't seem to shift some things, then maybe this is because there are cloned versions of you out there that are still struggling. If this sounds completely weird or scary to you, then just see it as your mind finding ways to release trapped energy or emotions, all wrapped up in incredible stories that come from your imagination. None of this is about fear. It's all about healing and doing whatever we can to heal our bodies and minds from the trauma of our past or other lives. Our consciousness exists in multiple places because we are multidimensional. But if there are clones of us out there, then this is adding an extra layer. In a minute, we're going to perform the same healing meditation that Barbara Stone uses in her book so that you can heal any aspects of you that have been used in this cloned way. You may not be military personnel, but our DNA is easily gathered up. These elites and their mad scientists have probably been analyzing and collecting our DNA for decades, which I think is because they want to understand why our genomes are changing so much. Our DNA has been changing for decades, and it's changing fast now. We only have to look at the new blood types appearing on the planet, such as golden blood, with only 43 people in the world having it, to see that things are changing. But it could also be in order to understand certain bloodlines. This could be coming from star seeds, from the higher dimensions incarnating here and bringing their energetic DNA with them, through light codes from the portal in the sun, bringing higher energies into and activating our junk DNA, or even hybrid ETs living among us, as there are apparently even underground schools for hybrids here on Earth. It could also be from the so-called hybridization agenda, where the small greys have been gathering DNA to use to apparently repair their own DNA. This was apparently agreed to by the US president when he reluctantly agreed to a few samples of cow and human blood being taken so these greys could repair their DNA. And of course, we've just had the biggest DNA gathering exercise carried out with the PCR test that was used to test during the pandemic. There are literally hundreds of studies to show that it didn't work, so what was the point? It was also mandatory, so they got everyone's DNA. It is never my intention to put fear into the world, and I want you to know that whatever has been done can be undone. We are made of energy and light, and this physical body isn't even physical. But I think it's important to understand the research behind these things because it makes it easier for the analytical mind to understand and then let it go. If our analytical mind doesn't believe it or understand it, it will block it, and that will hold up your healing journey, which is why I always look at the research behind things and explain everything that I'm talking about. So here is the meditation which I've modified from Barbara's meditation, as I also practice energy healing myself, and it worked amazingly well for me. You can start by placing your hand on your heart and ask the benevolent light beings of the Andromedan Council or Galactic Federation, whatever resonates with you, to ensure that any clones of you are released from their situation and taken to a place of safety and the higher dimensions of unconditional love for healing. And you can also visualize it happening if it helps as well. But essentially, you're asking these light beings, benevolent beings of the multiverse to release any clones of you that exist anywhere in the multiverse, release them from their situation and take them to a place of safety, to the higher dimensions of unconditional love. Finally, thank them and feel the warmth and love radiating out of your heart and out into the multiverse. If you've never done any energy healing before on yourself, then you can also set the intention that both maternal and paternal ancestral lines are healed of any pain and suffering and are freed from any situations that are not beneficial for them or for their highest and best good. I hope this week's episode has been helpful to you, and I look forward to catching up with you again next week. For now, take care and speak soon. Bye.